River Rescue by Peter Millett, illustrated by Emmanuel Cerisier. Chapter 1. It was Saturday morning. Kamon Patama was tired. Last week's school exams had been the hardest of his life. His father had promised to take him kayaking as a treat. After breakfast, Mr. Patama, Kamon's father, checked the weather report on his phone. "Oh, I see there's some bad weather coming later today." "Will we still be able to go kayaking?" Kamon asked. "Perhaps we should go now, while it still looks fine," said his father. "Cool, I'm up for that," Kamon beamed. He picked up his new drone. "And maybe I could fly my drone after?" "I'll think about it, but not if the weather turns bad. I don't want to get wet watching you fly a drone around," his dad laughed. "No problem," Kamon said. On their way to the river, it started to rain heavily, and thunderclouds rumbled above their heads. Mr. Patama looked puzzled. "The weather forecast must have been completely wrong," he said. "Look, it's raining already." Kamon peered out of the car window. "Maybe it's just a brief shower?" he said hopefully. Mr. Patama scanned the horizon. "I don't think so." Chapter 2. When they reached the river, the rain began to fall even stronger and heavier. They parked close to the dirt bank so that they could unload the kayaks, ready to take them into the water. Mr. Patama looked out at the heavy rain. "I'm sorry, Kamon," he said. "This weather is bad news for kayaking. Maybe we should leave it until another day. Hopefully then the weather forecasters will get it right." Suddenly, a great wall of water surged down the river, smashing through the undergrowth, sending rocks flying left and right. "Look out!" Mr. Patama shouted, hitting the accelerator to back the car away from the river. "What's happening?" Kamon asked anxiously. "It's a flash flood," his father cried. "There must have been a landslip higher up the river." The water swept over the riverbanks, almost dragging Mr. Patama's car from where they had parked. "This is crazy," Kamon said. "It took hardly any time at all to get to this. It's lucky we were not out there on the river. I'd hate to think what might have happened to us." He fell quiet and watched the dangerous waters thunder past him. "Help! Help!" screamed two faint voices in the distance. Mr. Patama turned round and looked up the river. "Oh no! Look, Kamon! I think those boys are in serious trouble," he cried. Suddenly, a tall man banged on the car window. He pointed to where Kamon had seen the two boys. "Help! I need you to help me, please. My sons are trapped out there in the middle of the river." A moment later, two kayaks slammed into the dirt bank just in front of them. Mr. Patama opened his door and leapt out of the car. "Shall we call the police?" asked Kamon. "No," said his father. "There's not enough time. We must rescue them right now, or they will be washed away down the river." Chapter 3. Mr. Patama ran to the edge of the swelling river. Kamon followed. "How can we reach them out there?" he cried. His father shook his head. "If we try and paddle out to them, we could drown," he said. "Then we are no help to anybody." "They need life jackets," said Kamon, "to help save them from drowning." "How can we get life jackets to them?" the boy's father asked. "That's impossible without going into the water." Kamon ran back to the car. He had an idea that might just work. "We have 2 life jackets. I think I can fly them out to them," he said. "What?" the boy's father said. "But how will you do that?" "I can hook some rope under my drone and fly it out to them," said Kamon. "The rope can drag the life jackets across the water to them." "Hey, that might just work," said Mr. Patama. And maybe we can use the rope to pull the boys back as well. Kamon and his father looked for some long rope in the back of their car, but they couldn't find any. "How about we use the ropes that are tying the kayaks to the roof?" said Kamon. "Okay, but are you sure your drone is strong enough to carry this type of rope?" Mr. Pathma asked. "I don't know," said Kamon. He untied the kayaks, lifted them down to the ground, and unwound the long rope from the roof rack. "I guess we're about to find out." Kamon hooked the rope under the drone. Then he let it fly up into the air. It struggled to fly in a straight line with the weight of the long rope dragging underneath it. The drone had only been in the air for a few seconds when a red light began to flash on its controls. Kamon's face dropped. "What's that warning light for?" asked his dad. "Oh no," Kamon said. "The battery is running low. I forgot to charge it before we left home." "What can we do?" asked the boy's father. "Just keep flying it," Mr. Pathma said. "Kamon's idea is the best chance we have." Chapter 4. Slowly, the drone hovered its way across the river towards the stranded boys. The rope dangled just above the swirling currents. "I hope the drone can make it before the power runs out," said Kamon. The drone reached the rock where the two boys were stranded. "Unhook the rope!" Mr. Pathma yelled out as the drone hovered above them. The eldest boy stood up and tried to reach the rope, but he couldn't do it. The battery warning level light began to flash faster. "Come on, grab it," Kamon breathed. The younger brother stood up and reached out as far as he could. He could just reach the rope. He grasped it and managed to free it without crashing the drone. The drone jolted skywards, suddenly free from the weight of the rope. "Pull the rope towards you, as fast as you can," the boy's father called out. The boys pulled the rope towards them. The next 60 seconds felt like an hour as the life jackets slowly slipped across the surface of the water and were dragged up onto the rock. The boys pulled the life jackets down over their shoulders and fastened them. "Now, I need you to be very brave and get into the water," Mr. Pathma cried out to them. Chapter 5. With its power almost completely gone, Kamon flew the drone back towards the riverbank. It landed next to him just seconds before the motor cut out. Mr. Pathma and the boy's father wrapped the tail end of the rope around their waists. "Okay, boys, hold on to the rope tightly," Mr. Pathma called to them. "Jump out as far as you can, and we will drag you to safety." The boys gripped the rope hard and leapt into the surging waters. The two men grunted and pulled as hard as they could. Kamon turned the drone off. Then he rushed over and joined in, pulling the rope with all his might. The boys hung on tightly as the cold, muddy water smashed into their faces. Slowly but surely, they were pulled back towards dry land. "Our river rescue is working!" Kamon cheered. A few minutes later, the exhausted boys crawled up onto the slippery bank, safe from the freezing waters. Mr. Pathma, Kamon, and the boy's father bent over, panting hard as they finally let go of the rope. The two boys hugged their father and slipped off the life jackets. Kamon picked up his drone and smiled. "Sorry, Dad," he said. "I guess you did end up getting wet watching me fly my drone around after all." Mr. Pathma hugged his son. "Don't worry about that, Kamon," he grinned. "Today, I was very happy to do it." River Rescue. School exams are over, and Kamon is finally ready to enjoy kayaking. A flash flood suddenly changes his plans.